Welcome back, everyone. You're watching the 2023 annual online conference. We've had a huge day today. This is our neurodivergence parent panel. So parents who have had experience with neurodivergent children. We just heard from Teresa Kidd in our last session, which was amazing. So if you missed that one, don't worry, that will be online for you to view later. I'm joined today by Tina, who you might have already seen, Janelle, and David, and also Lisa, and all of us, or 5 of us, are actually HEA volunteers and also on the committee. So I'm going to hand over to Janelle to kick it off. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Lynn. So I am a parent of, well, one definitely neurodivergent child, and a second who is beginning to realise and accept her own neurodivergence, as am I. So my youngest daughter is 11 and she has dyslexia and also dysgraphia and inattentive ADHD. And that has been really, it's been a really interesting part of our journey as homeschoolers. What about you, Lisa?
Hi, I'm Lisa, and my 8-year-old, also Lisa, is autistic with PDA profile and ADHD, and I'm also late identified autistic and ADHD, and yet it's thanks to Lisa that I've discovered my own neurodivergence as well. It sounds like it's similar to your story, Janelle.
And Dave, how about you?
Yeah, similar to Lisa. I thought I was normal. My youngest had significant issues, and as I was looking into that, checking all the boxes, just, oh, yeah, wow, okay. And yeah, a lot of things made sense about me. So I got 3 kids. The youngest will be 12 in a few weeks. He's the one that is most significantly neurodivergent. My oldest 15 and Sammy's almost 14. I think they both are as well. Sammy's also got ADHD. Tommy, it's been suggested he has what is it, ODD, oppositional defiance disorder. I've looked that up, and yeah, I don't necessarily agree. The symptoms he's got, but I don't know that that's what it is. So for him, taking instruction is something that he really struggles with, and the moment you try to help him to see that he's doing something not in the best way it could be done, something that could be dangerous even, he'll just like hide his head, hide his face. If he was going to school, he would spend the whole time under the table, or he would have spent his early years and just learnt nothing. And so he's struggled a bit.
Yeah, I find that with my daughter a lot. Even when I try and give her a really gentle correction or suggestion that something that she's done could be done differently in the future to try and improve it for her or for the outcome, she tends to take it on as being an attack or in some way, as though I'm cross at her. Even if I try and present it in a really gentle way, her brain just goes straight from one state to hyper tense and anxious and alert about that, that feedback, and it makes it really, really hard to help her learn when you can't correct things without her shutting down and not being able to absorb the information that you're trying to get across.
So how do you both then, when that happens, how do you deliver your lessons in a way that's comfortable for them? Like not your lessons, but how do you make their learning experience easier or less confronting?
I guess I try and find opportunities to do it in times when she's not already sometimes in a heightened state. But that can be really hard. I've always been big on the teachable moment, and something happens and therefore we discuss it, and that's our learning opportunity. But sometimes if she's already feeling amped up, I am learning to make sure that I don't escalate that for her in presenting the information. But whilst also recognizing that that's not always the way the world will work around her, and I have to help her learn strategies for dealing with how life is going to be. It's not always going to take her individual needs into account. Lisa, I'm sure that you probably find the same with your child.
Yeah, well, because she's has the PDA profile of autism, it means that everything she learns needs to be because it's important to her and on her terms. So, and I think a lot of neurodivergent brains kind of learn best when they're in charge. They're kind of autodidactic learners. So yeah, well, I guess our learning just kind of happens when it happens, and it's all pretty much child-led, and whatever Lisa is interested in, I'm looking around for opportunities, like you said, things that we can have around that are just there that she can discover and then learn. I try to just have everything at home that we could possibly need, because we don't go out very often, because she is highly anxious, and I don't teach her anything. We learn together. She really needs to feel that we're equals in the learning experience. So we don't have any structure at all. And sometimes we do projects in the middle of the night, and sometimes I'd rather be asleep, but it's the learning opportunity, and that's when she wants to do it. So we'll make burritos at 3 a.m. because why not?
It does sound like a really lovely way to learn, though, Lisa, that you've put that position of you're learning together. And I suppose for anyone who's that neurodivergent discovery is fairly new, it's for parent, it's going to be a learning experience anyhow.
So Lisa,
and you can see why it is so hard in a classroom environment where everybody has to sit down and do the same thing at the same time for neurodivergent children to thrive, especially kids who have some kind of defiance issues related to their neurodiversity, as so many people do. It's really hard for them to succeed, and it's really hard, no offense to teachers who are trying to do the best, but the environment's just not set up for neurodivergent people.
And so then the question for Dave, Lisa and Janelle is, did you always do homeschooling, or is it something that you developed into?
So for me, my two oldest started at school. It was different reasons why we started homeschooling. It was nothing to do with the kids. It was family circumstances, trying to save a marriage. That didn't work, but it was the best thing for the kids. And so Tom, the youngest, never went to school. And sort of just backtracking a little bit on some of the other issues for him, he always struggled with English, as in reading and writing. And even at 9, he couldn't identify the letters of the alphabet. But then around about 10 and a half, he suddenly became interested because he was playing Minecraft and Roblox and stuff like that. And people talk in chat, or sometimes a game has an instruction that pops up on the screen, and he'd be showing his brother and sister, what does that say? What does that say? And then it would disappear, and he wouldn't be able to see what it was. He'd mastered sometime earlier, like using voice to text to find pictures and things when he was doing searches on the internet, but he couldn't read what was there. He'd find his YouTube stuff. So he wanted to learn to read because he wanted to play games. And then, when we were driving in the country, suddenly, all out of the blue, driving to jobs or wherever, he would start seeing signs and say, "Dad, what does that say? Does it say?" And he would have a go at it. And now his reading is, if you're looking at the national average for his age, he would probably be on par or maybe even better. But no formal structured lessons, even though that's how we started. Like Lisa, pretty well let the kids lead their own learning. Sometimes a little bit of guidance here and there and encouragement to do a few things.
So how about Lisa? Did you start from scratch, or did you have to did your daughter go to school and then encountered issues that you had to then deal with?
Yeah, we started off at school. The local primary school is 5 minutes walk away, and so that was our plan, that she would start there. And in the 6 months leading up to the start of school, she became really anxious about it, and then she managed 2 terms of the school before the COVID lockdowns happened, and it was so difficult. She didn't want to go to school. She was high masking in school, so was trying really, really hard to do it. In the first week, I think she got an award for one of the best students, and she was trying so hard, but then getting to school and then leaving school and coming home, those were the times when she really showed how much she was struggling with the whole thing. And when the lockdown happened, we saw how different she was and how much her well-being had improved just by not having to deal with going to school every day and following the rules and fitting in and doing all the things that is easier for neurotypical people. And she has learned so much more since being at home. It's been a couple of years now. So yeah, it wasn't our plan, but it's the right thing. It's the right thing for our child.
It's an interesting thread that lots of our speakers today have been talking about children's ability to mask things and just how utterly exhausting that is. So they do get to the end of it and they're exhausted from trying, they're exhausted from not showing the difficulties and the struggle that they're having. So,
how about Janelle? What was Janelle's story with how you did?
So my children, both my children started in a Montessori school, which was great for them in early childhood. But as they got older, I was increasingly worried that they didn't seem to be progressing from what I could see in the way that I thought that they should be. And so we were, once again, COVID lockdown came and I started teaching them at home. And my 7-year-old went from not being able to read to being able to read in 3 months. And that was just because I could work with her at her level and we could work one-on-one, and I could give her the time that she needed to be able to focus on things. I would, keep going with jobs and or activities until we were finished, rather than being slave to a clock. And even in a Montessori environment, which is much more free flowing than a mainstream school, they still have recess time and lunchtime and end of the day and all of those things that happen at the times that they happen. And it was really difficult. So after COVID, we decided to keep homeschooling because it just worked better for our family, and we were enjoying spending time with our kids and having that connection to their education. After 18 months, my elder one actually went to high school, she auditioned for a selective music program and got accepted into that. And so that was an opportunity for her to do that. And I was really pleased. She's thriving at high school and having a great time there. And I really felt that homeschooling had set her up for success at high school. It had her in a much better space for going into high school than if she hadn't been homeschooled. And it was actually at that point when I only had one at home that I was able to identify that the distractions for my daughter were not, I always thought that the kids would distract each other. And it was only when her sister wasn't here and I just had her at home on her own that I realized all of the distractions were in her own head. They were all in her brain. And that's where all of the distractions were happening for her. And the reason why she couldn't concentrate wasn't because things were happening around her, but things were happening in her head. And so we've spent a lot of time learning about neurodivergence together. And it's been really interesting. She's been really keen to learn about neurodivergence and ADHD. She has done quite a lot of research, watched a lot of different YouTube channels and videos, learned different things. She's learned about the value of games and gamifying activities. So she will often she's made up her own reward system where when she gets something done, she gets a token, and then a certain number of tokens she gets to exchange for a prize from the prize box. And she designed that system, not me. So I had to buy the prizes for the prize box, but I didn't design the reward system. But she finds that helps to incentivize her. And we've also, through our HEA membership, gotten a number of really good different programs that have more of a gamified aspect. One that she's really enjoying at the moment is Prodigy Maths, which we got through an HEA buy-in. And you have to do the maths problems in order to get the points to fight the monsters. And she loves that. She will, if I say, hey, let's do some maths, she's really keen to go and get onto Prodigy. And while we do lots of real world maths by going out and about and doing things, finding those ways to meet her brain needs really inspires her learning for her.
Lisa and David, do you find the same thing with your kids, that the gamified stuff is better for them, or that they're more engaging with it?
Like the games helped Tom with his reading. Tyler, my oldest, he plays a game called Besiege, and that's been good for him to learn other stuff like engineering. You make cars and all sorts of things. You learn about suspension and springs and that sort of thing, gearboxes, speed, torque. He's learned quite a lot from that game, more than what I think he would have learnt if he was going to school for his age.
Yeah, mine learns most of what she learns through games. She's really into Roblox and Minecraft, and I guess before I really thought about it and looked at the curriculum, I didn't really think there was much to those games, but she's learned, yeah, the same as you, Dave. She's learned how to read completely by reading the comments in the chat. She's communicating with people and making friends, so there's a social aspect about the game. She doesn't really set herself challenges like the gamifying for ADHD that you mentioned, Janelle, but she sets herself challenges. She wants to beat a game, and then she works towards it. And it's quite interesting to see how she tries and tries. It's frustrating. She stops. She waits until she's ready to try again, and then she keeps persisting until she does beat it. And problem solving is something that she's learned so much of from the games. but also with play. I mean, I think she learns so much through movement, through her sensory system, as well as doing the learning thing. So we've got lots of like climbing and crashing and jumping equipment, and so she's constantly on the move, like playing with her body as well as learning, and it's just something that she just wouldn't be able to do at school. And so it's been really, really beneficial.
What about support? Did you reach out to anyone for support, or were you put in contact with anyone in particular to help you guide what you had to do?
At the school or at home?
But I just like once you like with the neurodivergence, did you
right.
reach out to anybody, or did you have someone assigned to you to assist you? What sort of resources did you need to find to help you, and the support? Where did the support come from?
I see what you mean. I think we definitely had to search for it ourselves rather than have it provided to us by anyone. But luckily, there are a lot of people talking about this stuff, and online in Facebook groups. There are communities that are constantly helping each other and giving each other advice and asking questions. So I found Facebook groups. I think there's a neurodiversity homeschooling one that's really useful. And there are quite a few autistic and neurodivergent activists who share their expertise, like Christy Forbes. I think I learned so much from Christy Forbes about neurodivergent culture. I think she was the first person that I went to, and she's got YouTube videos. She's really easy to look up, but she's also got groups that she has memberships for. And Beverly Payne is really, really good as well. She shares so much on her Facebook group, The Educating Parent. So yeah, we've really had to just look for the information ourselves and find our own community of neurodivergent homeschoolers to kind of help along the way. But there is some funding that we accessed as well that helps us pay for resources, the assistance for isolated children or students funding that we do access, which is really, really, really useful, obviously, because I gave up work to stay home with Lisa full time to homeschool her. So the extra money is very useful.
Yeah. I started with the Dyslexia Spelled Foundation to look into trying to help my daughter with her dyslexia, and we did some of their after school classes when she was still at school, and they were good, but when we started to homeschool, it kind of didn't seem as necessary because she was going to school all day and then having to go and do more classes to do the stuff that she was missing out on at school. So once we started homeschooling, I found I didn't really need that anymore. But what they did have that was really valuable, and you pay an annual membership of I can't remember how much it is, but it's not very much. And they have a library, and you can go and borrow dyslexia friendly books at all sorts of different levels from their library, and that was really helpful for me because trying to access things that she was interested in but were at her level was really quite a challenge, because anything that was sort of targeted at being at her level was too hard, and anything that was within her abilities was babyish and she wasn't so interested in. So that was probably one of the biggest helpful resources for us to get started. The thing that's really interesting is that neurodivergence and neurodiversity is such an emerging area of research. and there's new things being worked out and all the time, and it's still very new in terms of study at universities. I know that recently they decided, or they realized that OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, is actually a form of neurodivergence, whereas before it was thought to be a personality disorder. They've realized now that it's actually a form of neurodivergence instead. And so some of the sorts of techniques that they were trying to use to help people who had it were not always helping because they were not targeting in the right areas. And so I do enjoy following along and learning new things about that are emerging in the understanding of neurodivergence. And for me, it's also really important to empower my child to be able to speak up for herself and not feel ashamed of saying, oh yes, I have dyslexia and ADHD, and that means, you know, she's gone off to her dancing class this afternoon. That sometimes means she needs to ask the dance teacher to show her the step a couple of extra times because her brain remembers it backwards. And that's just how it works for her, and she can speak up for herself. And I think that's really important.
How about Dave? What did you have to seek out any sort of outside support, or is it just something that you developed yourself?
Yeah, I live in regional Victoria, and then having the kids 50-50 with their mum who lives some distance away. So like have the kids, you know, 2 or more weeks at a time. COVID came, I was trying to get Tom assessed, got bounced around doctors and all sorts of things. So should be getting NDIS, should be getting the ASICs payment. It's all just fallen flat because can't get the services here, can't get the doctors. There's a doctor's chain, it was a national chain that started locally here, and that went, I don't know if it went bankrupt or being deregistered or what went on with it, but it doesn't exist anymore. Involved in some Medicare scam. So yeah, I'm just doing it alone, using some Facebook groups here and there. That's pretty well it.
Right.
Do you find then that other parents, like having those Facebook groups, other parents are a really good support for you?
Yeah, like there's a lot of information out there if you put yourself out there. I've just been added to Facebook's getting all these little chat groups, which does my head in sometimes. You get so many notifications, but you do get to interact with people. And neurodivergence, like it is so big, so divergent, it's so different. There's no one shoe fits all. So you pick up a little bit from this person, a little bit from that person, you think, oh yeah, that fits, and you just use what does fit.
Yeah.
So do you feel that like Dave, you said your older one started at school? Lisa said that her Lisa started at school. Janelle said that her children started at school. Did your relationship with your children change because you did homeschooling? Because this is a question that I get on the helpline. I get these sorts of questions on helpline. You know, I don't know if this is going to work for my child and myself.
Yep. I reckon it was great. I loved it, and the kids like it. I'll give you something. Tyler's my oldest. He's just turned 15 not long ago. So he got to year 2, I think it was, and Sammy was year 1 or grade 1, whichever way you want to say it, and pulled them out near the end of that year. And within 2 weeks of not going to school anymore, they were really close as siblings. Like they used to hold hands and walk around, and you know, they were each other's shadow, so to speak. School, it just drove a wedge between them, and they were fighting. After 2 weeks, Tyler says, "Hey, Dad, this homeschooling's really good. I'm friends with Sammy again."
Oh.
And that was his observation.
Not
as
just
a
good
bud.
for like parent, but also sibling relationships as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, it was really good.
Wow.
My kids have always been very sociable. And one of the things they really enjoyed about homeschooling, as did we as their parents, was for us, we like going out and doing things. And for them, they loved the fact that we could go together and do things. It wasn't just the once a term excursion to the same place they went last year that they would get at school. We would do. I mean, I'm in Perth, and we drove across the Nullarbor to Adelaide, and that was a great learning experience. The number of things we talked about along the way, and lots of conversations about history and geography, and we played books on tape in the car, and we discussed all sorts of different new vocabulary and language, and those books had history contents too. So we really enjoyed that time together, and that learning was just not about not about ticking boxes for someone else. It was about them learning. I mean, we do a bit of box ticking because we need to still show that they're making progress, and that sometimes means that they need to do things that they're a bit less keen on. Franny hates writing because she's got dysgraphia, and so it really hurts when she tries to write, and I don't push it too much, but I do encourage her to give it a go a little bit. And because in life she'll need to sometimes write things, so we do some practice of that, but overall we get to make it more about what she's interested in, and that's in many ways improved our relationship because she's not being pushed to do things that don't suit it.
For me, I guess knowing what I know now, I know that Lisa just didn't feel safe before when she was at preschool and daycare, and she was high masking and feeling unsafe a lot of the time in those environments. And we were taking her to those places because we didn't know how hard she was finding it. I guess because we didn't realize that her behavior was communication in the way that we do now. So even though she struggles a lot, I know that our relationship is so much better than it was because we weren't probably the safest people for her back then, because we were taking her into places where she was struggling and she couldn't tell us. So I know our relationship's improved because we're now safe, and she feels safe at home. And she's said to us since stopping school, we haven't spoken about it very much because I know that I think she experienced some trauma through doing that every day. But we went for a walk a few months ago, and we were walking past the old school, and she said, yeah, okay, we'll walk past the old school. And we had a bit of a chat about it. And she said, oh, I'm so glad that I'm not going there anymore. Every day people would ask me things and I just didn't know what they wanted from me. And, yeah, I'm just telling them about some things. Shut the door and I'll keep going. Excuse me. And she said, I'm so glad that now I'm at home, I don't have to pretend anymore. So just in those few words, I know how much more comfortable she is. And that's good for our relationship because we're supporting her in the way that she needs now.
That communication between you and Lisa as well, that sounds like it's grown hugely, that she's trusting and being able to communicate. and all Dave, Janelle, and Lisa, just that working with your child every step of the way, like working, like really considering what they need and what's working and what's not, and having them being part of their own education journey as well, and that communication, like it's all amazing. Does anyone have any tips for other parents who are watching who are thinking, I'm really struggling and stuff's not working? Like, what would be one of the first things you would say to another parent who's just discovered that neurodivergency might be having a bit of an impact on their life?
I'd say don't force it. Just take your time and follow your child's interest.
Yeah.
There's lots and lots and lots of really useful information out there. Read up, learn from other people, take what is valuable and applicable to you, and discard what's not, because what works for one person, you know, all of our children are different. They're different from everybody else. And what works for one person doesn't work for somebody else. But if you come up with an idea that you think might work for your child, this homeschooling gives you the opportunity to try out that idea, and that's really valuable, because if it then works for your child, then that will make a huge difference in their life. And while society is slowly becoming more understanding of neurodivergence, us equipping our children to be as prepared and resilient as they can be, because we've met their needs along the way, is going to go a long way to creating the best possible future for them.
Yeah, I was listening to a Christy Forbes webinar on learning at home if your child is neurodivergent, and she said something that really was excellent. She said mental health is more important than academics. And it's very true. So I'm going to remember those words. And I would also say, don't compare yourself to other families. You see homeschooling families who are doing schooling at home and it looks like school, and that's not how it is for many families, particularly neurodivergent ones. So it's really not helpful to compare yourself to other families. And also, like, your child has a disability, so you're managing that and looking after them as well as helping them learn. So cut yourself some slack and just, I know it's very hard to not be stressed, but take it easy and be kind to yourself, because your child is going to learn what they need to for themselves anyway, and they've got forever to do that. It doesn't have to happen between the ages of 5 and end of school age. That's my 2 cents.
Perfect, Lisa. I love it. Thank you to everyone. It's just been an amazing talk, like all round. So thank you so much.
Okay.
So thanks again, everyone, for joining us. We literally could be sitting here for another half an hour talking about this, because there's just so much involved. 3 different parents here with 3 totally different situations. So thank you all for sharing. If anyone has any questions, any need for further information, please just contact us. Hop onto our website. We're at HEA.edu.au. Also, we've got a bit in the expo page, so go check that out. And yeah, it's just a matter of, if you need the help, just ask. If you need information, Janelle was saying before, just go for it and find what works. And that's about it. So stick around. I think we've still got one more presentation for you this afternoon. And once again, thank you to all of our sponsors for today. And that's about it. I'll leave you with it, and we'll catch you all soon. Thank you.